Zia's Gunners Collective TV. Back at it, you already know. Like a motherfucker smack at it. Bye, up. In a menudo style and direct fashion, we're going to get straight into the content of the day. But before we do, let's hit that like and subscribe button and put your notification bell on all. I'm very humbled for all the support. Thank you guys so much. So as you see in the background right here, man, that is big old Wes Watson, the criminal, not the lip licker, but the criminal Wes Watson. And that is his full CDC C-file concerning his placement and where he's been in the California prison system. From what I'm seeing right there, man, there's not many facilities of California in effect right there. I see La Palma, which was in Eloy, Arizona. I see North Fork, which was, of course, in Oklahoma. And then, of course, Donovan, which was his reception. Now, over time, Wes Watson has talked a lot of shit about being a lot of places. He's mentioned Centinela. He's mentioned the Shoe. He's mentioned Salinas Valley. He's mentioned Delano. He's never been to these places. This is the exact reason why a lot of the prison genre YouTubers call Wes Watson out on his bullshit, expose him for what he was and for what he is, and that's a fraud, right? Someone who lied about being in these different facilities, lied about being in different places, and there's no reason to do this. You know, if he just came straight out, hey, man, I went from Donovan reception, they shot me to La Palma, Eloy, Arizona, and explained how the time was there, then he got shot to North Fork, everybody would have been cool with it. You got to understand, man, Wes Watson blew up not because of his prison history and his fake prison stories, but he blew up more so because of his look. You know, he was the great white hope. Let's just be honest here. Now, there's a lot of people that are hating on Wes Watson or hate Wes Watson for whatever particular reason because of the way he treats people, because of the way he acts more superior, and he's a narcissist towards other people, and he bullies people. He's a fucking bully. Let's just keep it real, homie. He's a fucking bully. But at the end of the day, man, a lot of the prison genre YouTubers that have actually been on level 4, level 3 yards, even level 2 yards, don't care for Wes Watson because he lied to the people and he tells other people's stories like they're his own. Now, he went on different podcasts like No Jumper and blatantly lied, straight up talking about he was in Centinela and he got shipped from Centinela to La Palma or North Fork, Oklahoma. That's a blatant, straight up lie. He never was in Centinela ever. He's talking about doing a shoe term and getting kicked out to level 2 yards dorms. He was never, ever in the shoe. He might have did a little time in the hole. We all do. But as far as doing a shoe program, this guy is full of shit, man. And that's why a lot of people don't like him. That's why he's exposed. Now, if you look right here, and I'm going to tell you guys right now, this information that I'm showing you in the back was actually brought to light by Flacco from a convict's perspective. One night he did his research, did his homework, decided to get on the computer. And for whatever reason, I don't know who sent it to him, but he was able to pull this guy's file and show all his bedding placements, the facilities he's been in. And not once does it show Centinela, Salinas Valley, Soledad,
Mississippi. They bring us to Oklahoma. So I ended up doing 3 years in Oklahoma when I dropped points from Centinela. So I was on level 4 C yard Centinela. I dropped points. They were taking whole blocks that were level 3. And just, you have no say. There's nothing you could do about it.
Lies, 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 and more lies. He's lying to Adam 16's face, right to his face. He was never in Centinela on no 4 yard. He was never in that facility. As you can see right here in the background, he went straight from Donovan reception to Eloy, Arizona, La Palma. Now, ain't nothing wrong with that, man. To me, prison is prison. I'm of an understanding, I've always been of an understanding that, hey, if you're locked up, you're locked up. It doesn't matter what facility you're in, what yard you're in, what side of the yard, what dorm, what cell. It's all the same. Being incarcerated is being incarcerated. You know, I hear a lot of people that boast and brag about being on 4 yards and 3 yards and try to make the comparison to 2 and 1 yards. Now, of course, 1 and 2 yards are going to be minimum facilities, medium facilities, and it's going to be a little bit different. There's a lot more freedoms. But that all depends on case factors, what you got locked up for. What programs you're involved in or what you have going on, the time, the age, everything factors in. So Wes Watson figured he would come onto the YouTube yard and bamboozle people, confuzzle people, trick people. And that's exactly what he did. And that type of pedigree, man, is not a good look, right? If you could lie to someone as simply as, hey, I was on this yard when you were really here. The math doesn't matter.
If you go to my Instagram, I posted on in black and white on Instagram since 2014 in the pen.
Right.
Like once we got smartphones and I was at Delano, I posted every day.
If I had all day to work out watching, I'd be jacked too. Fuck, your fat ass would be fatter, bitch. Your tits would be floppier, stupid. Fuck you think this is. Your environment don't change your heart, bitch. You got heart or you don't, you fucking frauds.
There it is there, in Wes Watson's own words. Your environment doesn't change your heart. So why did he come onto the YouTube yard lying about his environment, lying about places that he's been? If your heart doesn't change, it doesn't matter where you've been or what you've been through. All that matters is where you're going and what you're going to go through, right? He utilized all these prison stories that were told to him, about Centinela, about Ironwood, about Soledad, that he heard from dudes that were actually there, guys that have actually been through the trenches and were involved in, things there. And he basically put himself in there and put himself on them yards. It was crazy because he got all kinds of details wrong, and people have exposed that. And this is the reason why a lot of the YouTubers are going in on him, because his background and his history was puffed up like the trend does his chest, right? Too much lies, too much shenanigans, and he got exposed as being the biggest fraud and liar in the prison genre on YouTube several times. I remember when it first happened, and I got to take a glimpse, man, over there on A Convict's Perspective at his file, and I was confused. I thought a page was missing. I thought for sure, man, the computer had malfunctioned. Maybe the Wi-Fi was fucking up. Maybe it was a McDonald's Wi-Fi. I wasn't too sure. But one thing I'm for sure of now is that Flacco, when he did expose him, he was absolutely correct, man. Wes Watson was a fraud and continues to be a fraud. So now he has taken that snake oil salesman attitude and applied it to the strength cartel with Big Boy and Chuck Basher and all the other fucking hooligans that they got over there. And what they're doing is they're robbing people blind, manipulating people into thinking that there's some big aggressive man that walk prison yards at a high level. We're stabbing people. We're doing all this, and that they massively changed their life. When in fact, Wes Watson was as quiet as a church house mouse in prison. How do I know? Because I actually had a family member that was locked up in 2 different facilities with Wes Watson. In La Palma, in Eloy, Arizona, they were there. And he said Wes Watson was quiet as a motherfucking fat chick in church. You know what I mean? That got the measles. And then they actually ended up and landed on the same exact yard in Oklahoma. And he said Wes Watson worked in the kitchen and was doing nothing but slamming heroin and kicking back with fucking Southerners, right? And that's the truth. Not that they get down like that, but that's what he was doing. The workout has always been in Wes Watson. All the way from back when he was in the county jail and he was telling everybody that he was a Navy SEAL. Come on now, Wes. If you don't stop it, right? All this attitude and all this pumping people up and lying to people is what leaves bad taste in people's mouth. But from what I hear from Wes Watson, or from watching Wes Watson videos, he is really convinced. Liars do that. They start convincing themselves that they've actually been to these facilities, that they've been to these places. And it's crazy because not once, ever, and the whole time that Wes Watson has been doing YouTube, have we actually seen a person that was actually locked up with him on his channel. He never sat down. He never interviewed him. He never brought him to confirm or deny his stories, because we all know it's bullshit. And that's why a lot of guys that, take pride in their prison YouTube channels, it's not about boasting and bragging. You've been here, someone else hasn't been there. It has nothing to do with that. And more so has to do with explaining situations that you've went through to deter people from having to go through them situations. Explaining the ins and outs of certain facilities. There's going to be people that were in different places. I myself, man, I done time in Corcoran, Sad F, Jamestown, Susanville, Tracy Prison. And I can tell you 100% for sure, man, when you go to these facilities in these places, incarcerated, you don't forget certain yards and cell numbers and who your cellies were. And you don't forget these things. These things are like concrete stuck in your mind. And then when you get together and start talking to someone who was actually in the same facility, maybe not at the same exact time, but there, you guys start to reminisce. Hey, do you remember Canteen, how it was, or Chow, or did you guys watch at the Chow Hall? Were they doing self-feeding at the time? What was the lockdown situation was like? Did you hear about this incident or that incident? And you guys kind of collab and reminisce. And that's part of incarceration, man. It's the same old stories. You know, we live in a small world, and the prison community is very small as well. So if something happens, say in Centinela or Soledad, man, you're going to hear about it in Pelican Bay and High Desert. You might not hear about it immediately, but now with cell phones, man, Vatos can just call you over there in Pelican Bay like, hey, guess what, bro? The homies got off over here. See, Wes Watson comes from a different era. He comes from an era of shenanigans and bullshit. You know, and he thought because he had a few tattoos and he had that look, man, he was going to bamboozle and cheat everyone into believing he was something he is not. And now he has joined the Strength Cartel, and they're walking around these gyms trying to bully people, you know. But when people actually pull Wes's card, when they actually run up on Wes Watson, you know, he admires their calves. He admires their muscles. You know, he makes it all about image and perception, when at the end of the day, he's just an old snake oil salesman trying to get over on people. None of his relationships work out. None of his friendships pan out. The only thing that he's going to end up with is a park bench, a pigeon, and a beat up Bugatti, right? Because we could tell you right now, man, his associations are definitely a little zesty. Let's just keep it real, you know, and that's not the conduct of someone who actually functioned on a yard like Centinela, Delano, you know, Soledad, Salinas Valley, all these different places where he said he functioned. You know, he would have come out with a different demeanor and a different attitude. There's no way any grown men on any of those yards that he mentions is going to allow someone like this to yell, scream, or do anything in a derogatory manner towards them. That would have been considered disrespect, and they would have moved on him swiftly. You know, he talks about all these stories, but he never talks about doing removals on the yard. He never talks about stepping up for the white car man and handling his business. He just wants us to believe and fall into the line of what he's saying, that he just went to these prison yards and he just automatically took the keys and was shot caller. It's not the way it works. I was never part of the white faction. I was on the other side of the yard functioning as a norteño. The white faction, when I was locked up, were considered the enemies and they were to be watched. And we were on a half 60 at all time, meaning a soft defensive stance on the yard with them. We could tell them good morning. We could tell them hello. We could even say, you know, do a little business with them from time to time. But at the end of the day, we knew the whites felt the same way about us that we felt about them, that it could go up at any point in time due to disrespect, or just because a certain guy gets kicked out of the shoe and lands on the yard and wants it to. And if he has that status and respect, then it is what it is, right? So everybody walked on pins and needles around each other, but everyone was willing to use a pin and a needle too. Now, I've seen several white men on these yards get off. Youngsters would come on the yard and with no hesitation, you could see it all unfold and play out. You'd see the little junta, them pulling them to the side, getting at them, bringing them a little canteen, a little care package. And next thing you know, 2 yards later, he's whacking someone or he's getting off and handling his business, right? That was all part of, you know, being on that yard, man, meaning you're not going to just be dead weight on a yard. Every faction, every group, especially the whites, man, made all their soldiers, all their people handle business. Now, I know there's a lot of people saying, well, that sucks being told what to do by another man. But you're in prison. You're being told what to do by another man anyways. If it's an inmate, a convict, or a fucking police officer, right? It just is CO. That's just how it goes. Wes Watson never tells the stories about getting there and having to put in work. His stories always are he gets there and he's making other people put in work, or things that he's seen while he was there. There's nothing, I'm sure, in his file that shows him getting locked up for attempted murders or assault with deadly weapons, for pegadas or removals he's done in prison. In fact, I don't ever remember Wes Watson ever talking about doing a removal. He's the only white man in America in the California system that just got there and was a shot caller right from the gate because he said so. He's the only white man that I ever met that was a Navy SEAL but really doesn't talk too much about it, right? Wes Watson surrounds himself with fakery and flim flam shit, and that's what you're going to get with him. And that's the truth. And that's why a lot of people don't like him. You know, like I said, he was exposed already for lying about being on prison yards. And he continues to go on places like No Pumper. I haven't seen him on Vlad TV yet. I'm sure he's going to show up. These different podcasts and lie directly to their face. There should be some rules against that. Rules of engagement. You shouldn't be able to lie about certain case factors and things directly to a guy's face, because then you're going to lose all respect. And you lose self-respect having to go over there and trying to lie. Eventually he gets caught up in his lies. But this guy believes in what he says. And it's a cold world that we live in, that people actually believe this guy's true. This guy's fakery has truths. You know, but let's break down this. Does it really matter what yard Wes Watson was on? He definitely was incarcerated. I don't know if it was 8, 9, 10, 15 years. Hey, yeah, I don't know if it was 11, 12, 6, 7. Hey, homie, it could have been, there was 12 of them, 7 on 12. Let's go, right? It could have been anything. Could have been a number of years that he'd done. Regardless, he was locked up. Okay? That doesn't make a man a man. That makes a man a different type of man, though. You know, that makes a man knowing, aware, someone who's actually did prison time and knows, man, the type of treachery and viciousness that goes on. I'll give that to Wes. But why sit there and lie about your environment and things that you've went through that you've never went through? Is that to make himself look better or good? Because it actually makes himself look stupider and dumb to me. You know, I've been on yards with real hitters, certified, people from organizations, groups, right? That would never ever talk the way Wes does. Quiet, humble, respectful. You wouldn't even know that the guy's a straight mass murderer. The dude has 9 bodies under his belt. Done killed like 4 of his last cellies, right? And he's just walking that yard, hitting them dip bars, doing his little burpees like everyone else does. You know, all that, you know, and people talk about it. It definitely gets you the respect and the fear on that yard. Like, people will be like, damn, I ain't trying to sell it with that dude. That about to fuck around and whack you, right? Wes Watson never has struck me since the beginning of time when I watched him as someone who pumps fear. He likes to scream and yell, but they always say the loudest one in the room is the softest one in the room, right? And that's what Wes Watson reminds me of. And now that he's starting to hang around with Big Boy and the Shenanigan Cartel, right? I could tell you right now, Sharmuta. How does Cholo Juan say? Ha. That's them dudes, man. They're the Ha group, right? They're over there arguing amongst each other, smashing watermelon and pumpkin seeds up their ass, right? And Wes Watson fits in perfectly. He actually took over as the guru. And I know Cali Muscle, who did time allegedly in San Quentin, right? Oh, Cincinnati Chuck Basher. And people like Big Boy, who actually did real prison time. And other guys like Big Joe, who I know was in the CDC. I know when they hear Wes Watson tell these stories, they're smart enough to understand and decipher that he's bullshitting, right? Or is it the money that they're clouded with and the fame and the clout that they don't care? They'll let him continue to lie and make them look stupid. Stupid is as stupid does, man. And birds of a feather flock together. And Wes Watson definitely has the right crew, the Shenanigan crew, the Shenanigan Cartel. They look at this guy like he's some type of god or king, you know. And I'll tell you guys right now, man, it's a situation where Wes Watson's empire and what he's built will come crumbling down because it's built and predicated upon lies. See, when you build something on lies, it's flimsy. It's flexible. Right? It's not going to hold up. It's not going to hold up its weight. And a lot of people that continue to watch Wes Watson or watched him from the beginning, they watched him because he was a good storyteller, because he told good prison stories. And all that's fine and dandy. You know, I'm actually a storyteller that tells stories too, but I'm not going to tell you stories that I wasn't there for or actually involved in. I might have a perspective on certain situations that went down and can tell you some back history on things. But if I tell you a prison story, it's because I was right there participating on that yard, in that righteous yard where I said I was at, right? With Wes Watson, you don't know what to believe. But he was exposed. I mean, it was put out there. He never, ever went to a California prison yard besides Donovan, which was his reception, okay? And if he did slide back onto any California prison yards, the reason we're not seeing that file is because it was SNY yards. So I don't even know if Wes Watson paroled GP, like he says, GP Penitentiary channel, or if he paroled SNY. Not that it matters, but I mean, if he was in a California facility, that's probably which one it was, right? He definitely was not in Centinela, nor was he in Delano or Salinas Valley. That's a fact. You know, someone like that's trying to impress people and constantly wants to show people he's better than them, he would have already brought his paperwork out and showed his C file and showed, hey, look, that's foolish. That's bullshit, man, what that guy's saying. This is where I was at. All that, I'm not even going to trip off of it, or I'm not even going to address it, man. Someone that has a narcissist tendencies like Wes Watson addresses everything. Okay, he definitely would have said something about it. So we know that he's full of shit. Anyways, man, if you see him in the background right here, all he's doing is ranting and raving and screaming. And he definitely would not do that next to the pull-up bars. He would already been whacked, slapped, beat up, and probably fucked in the cell by a big old, I aren't even going to say Cali Muscle, right? I'm just saying, at the end of the day, man, this is the type of person that bamboozled people, and he's exposed now. And people are going to continue to expose him. And we're going to continue to drop videos. I'll be dropping a video over there on the collective clips today, man. The paddle game. The paddle game was real. Make sure you guys watch it. It's a Wes Watson video. And man, did his ex-wife really expose and put him out there? He likes to get plugged and paddled. Paddled and plugged. Nalgas and NyQuil. Nalgas and NyQuil. Shout out, respects to everyone that popped in, man. Thank you. I appreciate all the support. And you guys already know, man. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive and struggle for what I truly believe in, and that's the betterment of all people. If you're a Wes Watson supporter, go ahead and get yours, man, because he's going to get